Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is actually the second time I'm filming this because the first time I kind of just wasn't happy and it was a nightmare to edit. So this video was originally going to be me taste testing Dunkin Donuts for the first time and sharing some things about my law. But I kept the Dunkin Donuts footage and I'm just refilming the law basically. So the Dunkin Donuts footage is going to be at the end of the video. So this video is going to be a bit more toned down than my last one, so go grab some snacks because it could be quite a long one. So let's get into the video. So I have some notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So it started in August 2022 and I had a pain in my my lower right side, and I already struggled with my periods and period cramps, so I thought it was just more severe. So I went to the doctors. They sent me to A&E because they thought it was something to do with my appendix when I said it was my lower right side. But I went to A&E and they basically just said that all they could find is that my right ovary was bigger than my left one. Which I sort of wasn't happy with that answer because this pain was literally the most severe thing that I've ever felt in my entire life. So after going to the doctors a few times, I think before that, I went on tranexamic acid for my periods, which I don't really remember if it helped that much or not. I think it did, with feeling sick, but it didn't. It kind of stopped working when my body got used to it, I guess. Because it started in August in the UK, we start back to school usually end of August, start of October, September. And so because it started right before school started, people sort of just thought I was faking it to get out of school, which kind of didn't make sense because I would have been going to year 11, which is the last school year, and it's obviously your GCSE year, so that's kind of important. So when I started school, from September to November 2022, I went, but my attendance significantly declined because of this pain, and it was like literally, like I said, the most severe thing I've ever felt in my entire life. And it wasn't only around my periods, it was also when I was not on my period. So I thought it was really unusual, and like I didn't know what was going on with my own body, which was really scary. So paracetamol or ibuprofen didn't help the pain either. I would usually just stick to having hot water bottles on my abdomen, and usually it would kind of help, but also it got to a point where even those weren't helping, but it would literally leave burn marks on my abdomen, and it's like, that's clearly something's not right. So then I don't really remember when it started, but because my attendance declined, there were like 5 members of staff in particular from my school who were particularly rude to me, and I do not appreciate you. But there were a few people who came to my house from my school and basically were like questioning me why I wasn't in school, etc. As I sat there with a hot water bottle on my stomach. I get they're only doing their job, but it's not how I go about it personally. Like, I don't really understand how they're allowed to do that, but okay. And the reason they were doing it is because they didn't have medical evidence, but I didn't have any medical evidence to give them because the doctors kind of weren't sure what it was themselves. Time after time of keep going back to them, they were like, from September to November, I think it was particularly from October to November really, my mental health sort of started to decline because I was in this pain. I didn't have any answers from doctors. The school were harassing me for medical evidence, which I didn't have because, like I said, didn't know what was going on in my own body, which is really scary. And just like so many people around me just didn't believe me that I was in the pain in the first place, which is just so insane to think about. But to the people who did believe me, I will never forget who you are. Thank you. November to December 2022. My mama died late November. Mama is basically a different word for grandma, if anyone doesn't know. And the attendance staff at my school were still coming around my house, and I remember they came, I'm pretty sure one staff member came literally on the day that she died, but before we found out, and they still came after as well. And I remember one incident where they came round and my mama's stuff was like on the floor in bags, and basically I'd asked them if I could have work to do at home so I didn't get behind, right? And they said something along the lines of, oh, we would if it was a kid with a more serious medical issue like cancer. What?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
And it's like, I was sat there with like a scalding hot water bottle on my abdomen, and it's like, the audacity to come into my home, a place where I'm meant to feel safe, and say something as disgusting as that whilst I'm in very real and genuine pain. That's freaky and weird. And they never ended up giving me work to do at home either, which is so weird because you're making a fuss about me getting left behind with work, but then when I ask for work to do at home, you're not giving it to me. Just because you want me to be in school when I physically can't because I'm in pain. And another thing as well is they would threaten us with fines for not coming in school, and it's like, if it was a broken bone it would be different because then you can easily address what it is, but because it's something internal and you can't see it, it's like, it brings it on to another conversation about mental health, you know, and it's like, these things are so important and I don't really feel they get talked about enough, which is why I'm here and I'm talking about it for you. So that was that, and then we had the Christmas holidays, and then January to February 2023 we go back to school after the Christmas holidays, and they made a plan for me to go into school at the start of period 2, which means that I would just miss the first period, and I did do that for a while, but it didn't help my pain. Not only that, but also it was the fact that I had to walk to school, and it was an hour walk altogether because it was half an hour walk to school and half an hour walk back from school, which I think kind of aggravated the issue, to be fair. but there was kind of no way around that. And again, I really don't think they were understanding about it at all. So March 2023, so in March, I turned 16 in February. I went to the doctors and they put me on birth control. And I was like, what the hell? Because I seriously do not see that as a solution. Don't get me wrong, it does help, and I'm still on it now. It does help, but it's, for me, in my personal opinion, it's kind of just a thing to like fob you off, you know, and just get you to shut up about the issue. Because the amount, have you seen the amount of side effects it has? Have you seen the massive like sheet of paper they hold up? The massive booklet? Every time I get mine, it's like in a little booklet and there's so many pages. It's like a dictionary. It's like, what the hell? And it's so weird because I just feel like we should do better as a society. More research needs to go into it because it's not right, and it doesn't sit right with me, and I don't know how it sits right with anyone, how we are in this like society. Like, we're in, it's 2026 now, come on, like, what the fuck? Get your shit together, please. Oh my God. I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I will cry. Deep note sec. This is actually something that I'm still mentally not over. And I'm still very traumatized from this experience, to the point where I'm gonna need therapy to get over it, because you don't even know. And it might not make sense at this point in the video, but when we get to the end, hopefully it will make sense why I'm still, like, my brains are racked. Like, I still can't get my head around the fact that this actually happened to me. I actually started the pill, although I got it in March, I started it in April, and it did help at the start, but it was mainly just for my periods. But the mysterious pain that I had was still there. So May to June 2023, those are the exam months, kind of, I think so. So I got the exams done, and then I sort of just left after the exams. Luckily most of them were in the morning, which meant I could do that, so I did that. And then this is kind of where it all kicks off. June to July 2023. So when you do your GCSEs, you kind of leave school like 2 weeks earlier, I believe, than the rest of the school, because obviously you don't need to go to school if you don't have anything to learn, and get your GCSEs done and out of the way. So yeah. And then yeah, so it was in the middle of those 2 weeks. I had the first week off, which was fine, and then it was the second week that it started, I think. I remember it was on a Friday, and I woke up at like 10 o'clock, and like, I don't know how to explain it to someone who hasn't experienced it, but you kind of wake up and then like immediately you can feel that your body is like, yeah. Like I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of bed and then the pain's gonna start. So I was like mentally preparing myself for that. So I went downstairs to get some breakfast, but I think somewhere between the Friday, it might have been on the Saturday, or maybe it was on the Friday, I don't really remember, but anyway, I had breakfast, but then I like was just throwing everything that I was eating back up again, and that had never happened before with that pain, but it was too late to phone the doctors because they were only open from like 8 to half 8 to call and make an appointment, which meant I would have had to wait until Monday to phone them. So that was kind of over the weekend. So on the Monday I went to the doctors, and they sent me to A&E again. We got to A&E and did the usual scans and checkups. Like, I remember I had ultrasounds and MRIs all throughout this experience. Only in this instance, July, when I went to A&E for the second time about this issue, I went for the scans again, and they said that it looked like my ovary either had a cyst or was twisted, but they couldn't tell which. Again, I'm not really sure how, but it's kind of concerning how at this stage in society and these things haven't developed enough. I get kept in A&E until about 6 p.m, and that's when they said that I'd have to stay in overnight, and I was really like apprehensive about it because it was literally a year, almost a year, but I'm just running out to a year, of this pain and being in this pain, and not many people believing me either, and it felt like I was finally being listened to and something was getting done about it, and so this is why I kind of haven't processed it properly, because then it, like, these 3 days that I'm explaining now, it happened so fast, and like my brain is like I still just don't believe it almost, you know? So the next day comes, so this was Tuesday, and I was told that I was going to have surgery at some point so they could find out what was happening. So I was like, okay, but they couldn't pinpoint a time because obviously if someone with a more urgent medical thing came in, then obviously they'd have to have surgery first. But I remember later in the day, another doctor came around to me and he asked me if I wanted to stay and have the surgery or go home on more medication. And foreshadowing right now, but not, I don't think foreshadowing is the right word actually. Spoiler alerting, whatever. That if I had chosen to have more medication and go home rather than have the surgery, I literally probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. Let me just tell you that. But I knew that I should have the surgery just because I was like in so much pain for so long, and I was so tired, mentally, physically drained. I was just like, I just want to find out what's happening in my own body. Is that so much to ask? I stayed to have the surgery obviously, and then about 3 p.m. they said that they can fit me in for surgery, so I got prepared and went down to the theatre to have the surgery. Then I woke up from my surgery about 9 p.m. and then got taken back to the ward, and I was so out of it. I was like, what the hell? Honestly. And I didn't really get much sleep either. I was just like, what is going on? I was literally on so many like, so I was on so much medication. And then the next day, I think it was about 10 a.m, I woke up. So this was a Wednesday. The doctors were going around to our room, and then they eventually got around to me and told me that I didn't have one or the other. It wasn't a cyst or a twist, it was both. And it was completely black. And if it would have been in my body any longer, I would have died from sepsis. How was that for medical evidence? Do you want my ovary? Do you want it? I don't want it. Yeah, and they said that I actually should have even been classed as an emergency patient, because if it was in me any longer, then I would have died from sepsis. So I had the ovary and my fallopian tube removed on my right side. I still have my left, and the professional term for it is actually quite funny. It's called an oophorectomy. Oof. That's funny. Yeah, so that's the removal of an ovary, and I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this right, but I think the fallopian tube removal name, professional term, is salpingectomy. Am I pronouncing that right? I do not know.
Salpingectomy.
Anyway, so that's sort of the main deal of this video, why I'm making it, because it's crazy and I literally could have died, and I need the world to know that I really stand for, like, just mental health and women's health and all of that, because it's important. And you know, I want to open up this conversation because if I don't, who will? You know, like, sometimes you have to be the person to make that move. Here I am, I'm doing it. You know, like, this is meant to be a serious video, but I just don't do well with being serious. So sorry if I seem a little bit unhinged. More of that to come. So August 2023, I was still recovering from my surgery. It was keyhole, so it wasn't that major technically. Even though I will have scars for life, but it's a story. Every scar is a story. Yeah. Get it tattooed. So August 2023, I was recovering from my surgery for like the whole of July basically, and I then didn't have very much time to decide on what college I wanted to go to, because you kind of have to stay in education until you're 18, unless you get a job, and that wasn't on the cards for me because of that whole experience I was still mentally and physically recovering from. So eventually I kind of didn't really have a choice, and I kind of just went to my school's sixth form, which meant I would see all the teachers who were absolutely vile towards me, which I was so uncomfortable with the idea of. And I remember I literally saw all of them, and none of them could look me in the eye, because my mum wrote a letter into the school basically demanding an apology, explaining what had happened, an apology which I never got from any of them. Still to this day, I don't have an apology for how they treated me, how they treated my mum, threatening with fines and all of this, you know, empty threats, which I think is just disgusting.
Disgusting!
And I remember, I think it was either my first or second day, one of the said 5 staff members who were particularly horrible to me literally came up to me and basically asked about my surgery. They were like, oh, I heard about your surgery, so like, what was it, blah blah blah. And I explained, but I kind of the people pleaser in me left out the part where I could have died because I just felt bad. But if I was given that choice again, I would not have left that out. Because after I had explained to this person, they literally said, oh, so your attendance will be better in 6th form then. As if all my physical existence comes down to is a number on a screen, a percentage. Is that not alarming to you? Is it not? Because it's alarming to me. Who do you think you are? Genuinely, who do you think you are? Get help.
Who the do you think you are?
No, whoa.
August to September 2023. So I started 6th form, but it was still a bit of a struggle because it was 5 days a week, and that's the same obviously as school hours and days. So eventually I ended up quitting and having a gap year, because we had a meeting with my head of year, head of 6th form, who was so much more understanding about it than the other people. I don't actually remember when I started the gap year because my memory has sort of just died. But what I do remember is, although it was great for me physically healing and mentally getting over it, it was also like the loneliest year of my life, not being able to like go out and do things, which then again had the domino effect of making me agoraphobic. September 2024 to December, I started a new college, which was a lot better, and it was only 3 days a week. I initially enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it so much. Like I kind of miss it. In October, we actually realised we got lied to about the course we were doing, because it was meant to be practical based. It was media, and so practically it would have been filming and making music videos, etc. That's what it got advertised to us as, and it actually turned out it was all exam based, which really wasn't fun because obviously that I turned 18 in when? 2025, so that was sort of the last academic year I could have without having to pay to get into another course, so it kind of fucked me over royally, which I really wasn't happy with. So then eventually I decided to just finish that year. But if you thought that was the end of the health saga of issues, it's not. There's more to come right now. So in January 2025, I went to the doctors because when I would walk or do certain stuff, I would still find myself in pain. But it was a different pain. It wasn't like the pain before. It was just sort of, it's so hard to explain pain to people. It was just sort of achy in the same area so my lower right side. But I was like, but I've had it removed, so what's the issue? What's going on? So I went to the doctors and they told me it's normal after surgery. I forgot the word they used. I believe it begins in T, but I've forgotten the specific word. I googled it and it said adhesion, so it could be that. I don't know, I don't remember. So yeah, they basically said, obviously when an organ gets removed, you're not just gonna have a blank space there, and actually it's your other organs sort of moving around and sort of sticking together. And they basically told me there's nothing that anyone can do about it either. It's just a thing that you have to live with after you have surgery and you have an organ removed. It's just something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. Something that I think is important to mention is that at some point when I was in year 11 and my attendance significantly dropped, they made attendance posters and put them around the school. And in one of my classes, which was one of my favourite classes as well, right next to where I sat next to a wall, but there was literally a poster on that wall right next to where I sat, and I just thought, it's way too like coincidental for it to just be a coincidence. Is that a sentence? I was like, that's so weird. And they also brought in an attendance award to award the mentor group with the best attendance. And I just thought, there are things that are more important in life than a kid's attendance in school, like their mental health, for example. But I just really wanted to make this video to really talk about these things because it's important to me. I think the moral I just want people to take from this video is just, if you have a health problem, just look after yourself and take your mental health seriously. Just take care of yourself because you need to, because I'm forcing you. I'm telling you to, so do it! Yeah, and it's just such a crazy experience because the person I was before my surgery, like, I am completely different, you know, in so many ways. I've really done like a whole 180. That's about as far as the story goes. So thank you for watching this far. This is actually the first time I'm having Dunkin Donuts. It's fine. I feel like the Americans. Okay, I have 3 donuts. So we have, I forgot the names of them, but an Oreo one. And then we have a Rocky Road one here. And oh, the original. So I feel like because it's the OG, I'm gonna have to try that one first. Here we go. I'm scared it's sticky. I mean, I guess it's just your gold standard donut, really. Nothing beats like UK seaside donuts. Absolutely not. Okay, let's try it. That's the caramel. Wait. That's the salted caramel. That is the caramel and chocolate. I guess it's kind of obvious if you look at the bottom. Okay, are you ready? I'm scared. This is what it looks like. Where should I bite from? I'm gonna get one of the marshmallow soda. Okay. This is like Oreo. Ooh. Oh. Oh. I'm only taking one bite of that. That's sickly. It's good. So thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video. I'm still working on an outro. I don't know what to do for my outro. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. There's a mini fly right now. Bye.